Hey Facebook, this is Steve again. Happy Monday. It's a little bit cloudy today. I decided today I'm going to do a video. This one was requested by one of my friends. It's not exactly the topic that she was asking for, but I decided to title this video, How to Tell If You're Polyamorous or Not, right? Now, sometimes I see this among people who are like just discovering polyamory. They're reading up about it and they're like, how do I tell if I'm polyamorous or not? I think I'm poly because da 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 da. There's one of my friends who said it really well. Uh, she said, once she said it, it really clicked with me. She said, I don't relate to polyamory so much as a sexual orientation, like you're just kind of born that way. She said, it's more like a lifestyle choice, like you're choosing a certain way that you want to live your life, right? So it's not so comparable to like being gay or being a lesbian or something like that. It's not like you're like born that way. Some people are like, "Oh my god, I found that I'm attracted to other people. That must mean I'm poly." Well, not quite, right? You can think that way. I don't think of polyamory that way. My version of thinking about polyamory is like, okay, well, most people, even if you're married, are going to be attracted to other people, right? Now, the question is, how are you going to handle that situation? And that's where the lifestyle choice comes in. Are you going to decide to, like, okay, you're attracted to this other person, and you're just not going to do anything about it, right? That's a perfectly valid choice. There's another there's another way to handle it, which is like you're attracted to other people and you're going to give yourself the freedom to flirt with them, or you're going to give yourself the freedom to like make out with them, or you're going to give yourself the freedom to like ask them on a date and go on a date with them, or start another romantic relationship, or even like possibly fall in love. There's all these different levels to being involved with someone else, right? Hold on, let me just make sure that okay, there we go. Um, yeah. Uh, Here's something else I come across. So first of all, there's something there's this thing that came up. I think I read it from The Ethical Slut, which is it's a pretty good book. It's a pretty good book. Uh, it's a good first book to read. It'll get you really like excited about polyamory. It says something like, you know, when you think about your first experience in monogamy, maybe you're like 12 years old or 14 years old or something, right? And you have your first boyfriend or your first girlfriend, right? It doesn't last very long, and it didn't go very well. You never hear everybody saying like, "Oh well, you know, I tried monogamy once, it didn't work," right? So I'm just going to go back to polyamory, right? Nobody really says that with monogamy, but for some reason with polyamory, people say that like you're monogamous, you have all these monogamous relationships, and you try polyamory once, and it's terrible, and then you say, oh, well, you know, I tried it once. It didn't work very well. Well, of course it didn't work very well because it was your first try. Of course, there's going to be all these things that you don't have practice, like managing in yourself, all these feelings that come up, all these different things that you need to communicate that are just kind of like impliedly understood in like other kinds of relationships. There's so much stuff and so many skills that you need to develop in order to gain skill at like being polyamorous. So, anyways, I want to put a little aside here about the book, The Ethical Slut. I was saying to somebody the other day, it's like, what books do you recommend? She was saying, what books do you recommend? Do you recommend The Ethical Slut? And I said, and it's very accurate. It's like, well, The Ethical Slut is very good at like getting people excited, enthusiastic about polyamory, but it doesn't really prepare them for what they're about to encounter, right? So it's similar to like reading that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Rich Dad, whatever that book is, Robert Kiyosaki, right? Gets people really excited about investing in real estate, but it doesn't actually prepare people for like crunching the numbers and doing the research and going out there and creating the team. It just gives you a lot of, what's that called? Analogy? Learning by stories. I forget what that was. It starts with an A. If any of you know that word, you can like type it in there. But anyways, it gives you a lot of like stories and gets you really motivated to get started in like real estate. So similarly with the ethical slut, it gets you really motivated to like learn more and to read more and maybe even start it, but it doesn't really prepare you for a lot of the emotional stuff that happens. Like, you're going to encounter this. Another way I said it to somebody else was like, imagine you have a map, and then it has an X on the spot, and it tells you, at this X, there's a treasure chest with $500 million in gold, and like, so it tells you about the treasure, but it doesn't tell you anything about what you're going to encounter along the way. It tells you what's in the treasure chest. It doesn't tell you about the journey. That's like the ethical slut, right? But there's a lot of other books out there. There's like more than two. There's another one called Opening Up. There's like a whole bunch of other books that are really good that'll tell you more about the journey. So that's more like going, you're like, it's going to say like, okay, go through this mountain, you're going to enter this mine, there's going to be a dragon inside, don't wake the dragon because it'll kill you. You know, it'll tell you more about what you're going to encounter and all the pitfalls, and it prepares you emotionally for the journey to get to the treasure, right? Okay? Yeah. So I didn't really plan this talk. I just wanted to be kind of rambling. I was starting to plan it, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna say what's on my mind. So going back to the original topic, how do you tell if you're poly? What I would say is, for me, like, I've been polyamorous for 7 years, 8 years. It has definitely reached like the, oh, somebody loved it, yay, hi. I think that was Laura. I've been polyamorous for 7 or 8 years now, and for me, it's a lot less about like, am I poly? Am I really poly? How do I know if I'm really poly, right? It's not about like a statement of truth, whether I am or not, or discovering that I'm poly. It's more about like, this is the lifestyle that I'm committed to, right? And I'm going to create my life this way. Like what I said earlier, it's a lifestyle choice, right? And there's issues, and there's problems, and there's things I don't know how to handle. And I just remain committed to the lifestyle. Like, it is possible to live my life like this, but it's definitely not possible if I give up, right? Like, I want a life where I'm, number one, not limited in expressing my with other people. And also, like, not have it endanger the relationships that I'm already in, you know? Like, for me, a lot of it is, there's something that I discovered probably about 2 or 3 years into polyamory. I said, monogamy, when I'm in a monogamous relationship, I notice a tendency for myself to, like, compare. Because the mindset for me is like, well, if I'm only allowed to have one, relationship at a time, and ultimately, I guess ideally, choose one for the rest of my life, I want to choose the best one. So even though I'm in a relationship, I might be like looking around and being like, well, is that one better? Well, is this one better? What does this one have that that one doesn't? Because if this is my only one, I want it to be the best one. Is this the best one? I don't know. So always having my eye on like, well, did I make the best choice? I don't know. There's a lot of like regret. There's like, what do I do? But in polyamory, what happens is like, there's no like comparison anymore. I don't have to give up one relationship to start another, right? So in that way I can explore this one, I can explore that one, I can keep the one that I'm already in, right? And none of them have to endanger each other. And so there's no comparison, there's no like idea of like which one is better than the other one, and I can actually fully appreciate each one for what it is, right? Anyway, there's more I can say about like why I'm polyamorous and the things that I get out of polyamory. But I think one of the big things is like, for people who aren't polyamorous, who ask me about polyamory, they're like, well, how does polyamory work? What are the rules in polyamory? Are you allowed to do this in polyamory? Are you allowed to do that in polyamory? What should I do? I mean, if I like this person, what do I do? And really, what it is like, it's not like, oh, monogamy works this way. Here's the understood implied rules of monogamy. That's generally what it is what it is, because we're kind of like societally, relationships look a certain way. But in polyamory, you're kind of entering into a different sphere. It's a whole different reality or realm of relationships where you're no longer relying on any kind of culturally, socially implied rules. It's where you make up your own rules. So when people ask me, well, how does it work in polyamory? There's no set way that it works. You make up how it works, and you discover how it works for you, and you communicate that. Or not, right? So it's a whole other realm, and you don't even have to label your style of polyamory. I'm at the point now where I'm just like, well, my style of polyamory is like, I don't know, there's aspects of relationship anarchy, there's aspects of egalitarian polyamory. If you don't know these terms, you can look them up. Maybe I can make another video on all the different kinds of polyamory. So like, just release all of the rules and all the expectations of how you think relationships should be, or how society be, and consider what it is that you want in your relationships, and just make those rules. And then if you want to put a label on it, awesome. And if you don't, great. I mean, I'm of the opinion that like polyamory releases the implication of what relationships are supposed to be, but I think that's also beneficial for monogamous relationships. If you're in a monogamous relationship and you're relying just on the cultural expectations of what a relationship should be, and both of you are in agreement with that, and you've like looked at it for yourself, and you're like, well, okay, yeah, actually everything that society expects from a monogamous relationship is in line with what I actually want, so that's what we're going to do. Great. But if you've never even inspected that for yourself and never decided it for yourself, and just by default that's just what you're accepting, I really suggest that you take a look at that for yourself and say, well, is this part of a relationship that I want? Is that a part of a relationship that I want? And you can even cater a monogamous relationship to what you want. And like, came across, I was speaking with a friend yesterday, and she was saying like, there's somebody that she spoke to, and he's like, oh, well, I'm kind of in a custom relationship. And I was like, I think every relationship is a custom relationship. And if it isn't, then you should really start customizing it. I'm not just talking about romantic relationships and sisters, custom relationship with your mom, custom relationship with your kids, custom relationship with each of your friends, relationship, whether you're monogamous or polyamorous or what. And don't worry about labels. You don't have to label it as monogamy, monogamish, polyamorous, open relationship. Figure out what you want first, and figure out the label later. And there might not even be a label that fits it perfectly, and that's okay. All right? Well, anyway, yeah, leave a comment or send me a direct message if there's any topics you want to hear me talk about. I hope this was useful for you. If you want to talk about it even further, I'll be putting a link on how to schedule a 25-minute call with me. We can talk more about it over the phone, all right? Until tomorrow, I'll be doing my next video tomorrow, okay? Bye.